Hey everybody, Windrake Hex here, doing a live draft commentary, trying to help new players. We are about a week into set 4, and it's been a lot of fun. A lot of powerful cards, new interactions, some archetypes getting stronger, some new archetypes emerging. We pick one pack one, Brood Count, which is a 10-5, 1-hit attacks. Well, the 10-5 for 5, which is just incredible. But the damage doesn't go to face, it goes to making spiders, which is totally fine. Because oftentimes in spiders, all you want to make is spiders because you just have so much inevitability by putting so many spiderling eggs in your opponent's deck that it just gets totally insane. The fact that it's an incredible blocker is amazing. It's just total. It's close to a spider bomb. The fact that it has crush, it lets you know that that damage is going to go through. So ultimately, just an incredible card. Followed up by like Eggblight Stalker, which is a 2/2 for 3 single threshold socketable miner. Hint, hint, probably going to be flying because you're playing spiders. So it's an evasive 2/2 for 3, which is fine. The fact that it makes spiders, 3 spiderlings for each time it gets through unblocked, does damage. It's a great enabler. It's also a threat. What's better than 1? Probably 2. Anything else in this pack that's interesting? Um, Not a whole lot. Only thing in spider shards aren't really playable. Um, this card, Refute, is a little underwhelming. I haven't cast it yet. I actually haven't main decked it yet either. It just seems it's kind of expensive and conditional, which you definitely don't want on your counter spells. The fact that it only has one threshold makes it a little easier. This would also be a very good card in spiders. It's kind of build your own spider deck. I like it. I kind of like it tacked onto a troop, though it is the only source of mill in set 4. Um, Really, there's one other uncommon, but the mill is a little hard to come by in set 4. So, but this is not released anymore, so we'll have set 3 to choose from. Here, interesting power level in a vacuum. I really like Prestidigitator. The fact that it just gives you card advantage makes a spell. Oftentimes, it could be a Chronic Madness, for instance, in this deck, in Ruby, or sorry, Sapphire. But I think for here we want to go a little more streamlined. Spider Matters. This would be another good card to cheapen spells, create an evasive threat. But Skitter is pretty busted. We're going to be doing venom damage quite often, so we're going to be playing this for free. You can already see great 2 venom do damage just with Crush. The other one with Evasion. So we're going to be playing this for free, which frees up resources for other stuff, which is totally nuts. And then 8 spiders is just a lot. So, there's kind of like a threshold to where just making spiders in a card is worth it. And I think when you start doing 8 with one card, it's worth a card. Making 3 or 4, not so much. You'll still play those occasionally, but 8, pretty awesome. Here, spiders is all about staying alive and making 1/1s for free out of your opponent's deck. So the longer the game goes, the better. Mackerel Mitts, nerfing your opponent's board for 1 for 3. Everything that attacks is pretty strong. It's a great anti-spider card. Also, doing it for 2 generally just shuts down their board in a pretty meaningful way. So I love that card a lot. So maybe, I was gonna say maybe things dried up a little bit, but this is a pretty strong card. I don't know. Maybe people don't realize how good this card is yet, but basically doing -3 for 1 is incredibly efficient, and I can't really think of too many games where you don't have a troop in play. Those probably aren't games that you're really losing. Even if you, or it's probably maybe at parity, but then you just chump block and you get the trade up anyway. It's kind of a 2 for 1, but long story short, like just incidentally, there's going to be plenty of troops in the crypt. So also strong cards would be Renlocks. I like the 1/3 in spiders. I also like being able to dig. You don't have a ton of spells in spiders when push comes to shove. Um, Removal is a little hard to come by in set 4. I guess set 3, there's like Vampire Kisses and Paraphages and stuff. You'd love to get those, but it's not like an Action Matters deck where that card really shines. Here, we could just get a Venom, just because it says Venom. There's lots of uncommons that care a lot about just it saying Venom in set 4. Though This card has been surprisingly great. Adding Death Touch to a 4 toughness oftentimes just shuts down your opponent's attack. And Spider Generation is so fast since set 4 came out that it's pretty playable. I've actually had quite a bit of success with this card, stalling out the game, making bad attacks for my opponent, and just increasing the time basically to do broken things. Um, Interesting. This is quite a lot of good cards. So Bleed Out is conditional removal, but it's cheap. Just imagine playing it against spiders; it's pretty underwhelming. But imagine playing it against wild; it's kind of amazing. Um, Time Flux is a great um, tempo card. Not always necessary in a spider deck. Nightmares is kind of a good value card. 2-1 for 3 is fine. Doing damage is great. I think I'm going to have to go with, well, and then this card generates more spiders with spells. So I'm going to pick the Synergy card. Again, more generation. It says Venom. Though we're not going to have a ton of ways to turn it on. Like, this card's great just as a card that plays spells. It can go in any deck. It doesn't have to be spiders. The double threshold early is a little tough. Um, but I'm still experimenting with this card. I've had pretty good success, even if it just triggers once. I feel like you've gotten your value from the card, and it's cheap enough to where it's not a whole lot of investment. Here we're probably gonna hate draft, though. I guess there's a chance we may play Deathwing if we need to side it in against the heavy flying deck. With the 3 toughness, it doesn't do a whole lot late game. It's more of a threat than a need it for defense. Here we see some pretty strong cards wheeling. Whirlwind Scout, good stats. Gaining health is often it's a good activator in the Health Matters deck. This guy, double damage, nothing to be scoffed at. But then again, like I said, Mill is really hard to come by. We don't really mind playing a Splinter or Bokrug. A 1-2 flyer for 2 is okay, and the fact that it mills is great. It also helps synergize with Festering Decay if we need to get troops into our yard. Um, This guy's too has top end. A 6/6 for 6 is surprisingly good in this format. There's not a lot of giant things running around. So that card's not bad. This card's pretty, not really great against us, but it's a pretty great graveyard synergy deck, or crypt synergy deck. Damage matters, decent card. I think we're probably going to pick, we might want to refute. I don't see ourselves playing a 6/6 for 6. I don't see it making the deck, whereas refute would be maybe a sideboard card against the Action Matters deck, or with some card we just can't deal with because we didn't get enough removal, that kind of thing. Cyclone Rider, good value card. It would definitely make most Sapphire decks, but the thing to understand about when drafting spiders is that you kind of want just enablers in mill and ways to not die. So, it says in native spiders there are more flight cards, but there's not like a ton. We just got more options from set 3. That being said, it's probably better than hate drafting a card, though Quell is pretty good. Not that great and against us because most of our things we don't mind just hanging out and sitting there. It would be pretty good, I guess, against our active enablers that need to get through, yada yada. Kind of shut down brood count, but then he could still be a great blocker. Again, we already took one sideboard card. I guess we could have all the Dust Wings. Just this saying Venom isn't quite enough, whereas this card having helps us fix in case we want to go try shard, and then also it can give something -2/-2, not bad. Then here I think I'm gonna take the bleed out. It's probably better than a tempo plus card, though in most Sapphire decks I'd probably rather have the tempo card. So not a bad pack. Here we have a super rare flight. When this comes into play, each card in your hand transforms in the Oracle song. So I think this is like one of those like super exciting rares that was released, and we're gonna play it. It's in our shard. I'm curious how much it is, so I'm gonna look that up right now. Moonsong Oracle. So we'll go to uh, Hex Primal Moonsong Oracle. So it's a $1.50, a little less than I thought. I thought this card would generate a lot of hype. Clearly, the probably the best card in our deck right now is Azure Fang Hierarch, but I really want to play with the rare. We'll probably sell for $1. And yeah, it's a little hard with a triple threshold, you know. But when you really want that card, it's late game anyway, because you may actually want the cards in your deck. Okay, so best removal, hands down, around right now. I like this better than Paraphagy because it's cheaper, and then it helps you fix, or could potentially help you fix. It's also the best card in the pack. This card is pretty interesting if you're like crazy necrotic. And then I've had some success with this guy in 5 shard. Just it's a nice life swing. If you have like recursion, it just gets a little out of hand, but yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts. Reaps incredible. So now we're getting some solid removal here. So again, Spiders at its core is a control deck. So you want to live, which means dealing with your opponent's threats. I don't think we're going to play this. It's kind of a cool top end finisher. We kind of consider this more like a 6 or a 7 drop, effectively, because of its triple threshold requirement. I do pretty much play a 9-9 split in all of my spider decks between Blood and Sapphire. Alright, so what's happening here? Some powerful options, decent sideboard card, a little more mill, good top end. This is a great card in aggro. Oh my god. It's pretty nuts. And then Cleave is very good against this. But we're just going to start stockpiling removal. Now, I don't know if, in the off chance that you can't get a troop into your graveyard, having more than 2 of these could compound that issue. But I think we're probably going to be playing 2 Splinters unless we get some crazy mill. Because I think playing one of these is, I don't know, set 3, there's a lot of mill cards. So maybe that's thinking too far ahead. But we could always mill ourselves if we really, really had to activate Festering Decay. And it's just really hard to pass up what I believe is a pretty low setup cost for the effect of that card. Here we're kind of out of options. Nothing's too great. This won't make the deck, but this is an interesting idea. Putting Rage 2 on a 5 toughness troop is pretty much where you want to be. This is a card where I actually think is worth 5. A lot of people will think that it's bad, but it becomes a 4/5, then it becomes a 7/5. I mean, there's oftentimes in the 5th turn of the game, there's not going to be something with 5 power. So it gets to swing in and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's just something your opponent has to deal with or make an unfavorable trade. Stuff like that. I guess Lethargy's decent. I don't like putting too many spider generating or non-removal actions in my spider deck. You want to be synergistic and streamlined when playing spiders, especially in set 4, where it tends to, you don't have as many stabilizing cards. You want to get those spiders out as fast as possible. That being said, it's not a horrible card if we have to play it. This is interesting. Now, I don't know if we want to play 2 Mackerel Mitts, whereas I definitely want a card like this. It's evasive. It helps plug up a hole in spiders, which is flyers. It's weak against flyers. It has generation. We're definitely going to have Venting Allegiance. Kind of love playing 2 Mackerel Mitts. It's exactly what you want to do. Also, the Chant deck's open, which is pretty crazy. Chant's actually pretty fun. I like it. Some people hate it. It's kind of like what Spiders was like when it first came out. You either loved it or hated it. But yeah, Chant's fun. So like I said, I would love to have a second Mackerel Mitts. It's also really good against us. It's a side thought. This is more of like an action matters card. It's a good activator for an action. And also, you'll get some spiders out of it in like a 12 action deck. But I think I'm going to take a Room Cultivator for all the reasons I just mentioned. And have a pretty good enabling team. If we can get the removal and then the stabilization in set 3, in pack 3, we're going to have a pretty solid spider deck. Here we have more reasons to throw spells into our deck. A second Hatchery Malvoker is pretty nuts. Kind of want at least one of these. It being flying and then give something else flying. It's a pretty good stabilizer. And it's kind of good against us because, again, imagine this card in Wild making a bunch of flying fatties with its prophecy while stabilizing in the air. Pretty nuts, but that being said, the upside for Hatchery Malvoker, It's pretty much there. It helps us with the Venom Allegiance, and it also will make some spiders. We don't, besides our removal, we don't have a ton of options right now. I think I'm going to take another bleed out. I think I may sideboard these in. I think this is a better sideboard card. Less conditional than the Dart 4, and the 3-2 for 3 isn't really what this deck's looking for. So I don't think I'm going to main deck bleed out, but if we're playing against an opponent that's going to have like building up to a solitary threat or has like something early that's really we just can't deal with, like Ruby has a lot of early 2 drops that will just take over the game. I think this card's pretty good. I don't know about main decking it. It could be a mistake. It could. I can see it definitely being main deckable. Um, Obviously, I'd rather have Reaps, but that may not be an option. Okay, so now we're getting critical mass on the Festering Decays. It may just totally shut down our opponent's deck. Now, how are we getting troops into the yard, though? Because this will just kind of sit there. We're not going to be able to trade early. I guess we could maybe trade early. Bleed out. It has to be one of our troops, right? Yeah, it has to. If you can avoid your opponents, that card would be busted. Alright. I think it's a little better than a Catwalk, or whatever that card's called. Just anything that doesn't synergize or kill something isn't really worth it in Spider deck, in my opinion. There's lots of good cards you'll be passing up, and you can make strong arguments. But, alright, so I'm going to take a Wakuna now. I really like this card. I think it plays a role more than a 2-1 flyer or a 4-2 flyer. This is all kind of fluff to what really Spiders is trying to do. The key component of this is it plugs a weakness in Spiders, which is against flyers. And then the Prophecy is kind of gravy. But actually having a 5 toughness option is pretty awesome now in Spiders in the air because it really does help. Chill, Temple card, not really a Temple deck. Understandable to hate this card, hate that card. Won't play this card, not even having the Necrotic. Cavern Creeper. There's a lot of spider cards that we're not seeing in common, so we're not the only spider drafter, but I still think we got it pretty good. We could win. We're on pace to get at least a deck that has the potential to win the draft. Whether it does or not will be seen, but card quality is good enough. So we're just gonna hate draft something. I guess I'll hate draft this. Cool. So 2 Splinter Volcrogs. We're kind of already set up in case we just get totally just blanked pack 3. But because our removal kind of depends on getting troops into our yard, and we also don't have a ton of mill, so Splinter of Volcog is going to serve some roles. Also, it does a few damage before it dies. It can chump block in the air, buy you another turn, yada yada. So, feeling fairly happy with the way things are panning out. It's a good sideboard card against like a control deck. 2 cards for 4 isn't that great of a deal. 2 damage isn't really that important unless you care about damage, which Spiders definitely doesn't. We could hate draft the Cry, but someone would have taken this if they're in the Chant deck for sure. Maybe we can keep this in the sideboard. Maybe we take this just because it says Venom. We may just need Venom. Though we're pretty much done. Like we didn't see. We had one opportunity for a the uncommon that like generates spiders based on Venom, and then mills when you get Venom. The card's pretty great. Um, but we took the new shiny rare that might resell for $1 instead of it. So we'll take another Splinter, and then we'll take a Vile Fang. So we got some stabilizing cards. We got some kind of mediocre mill, and we got some ways to turn on our removal. And then we have pretty solid enablers, and we plugged up some holes in the air, so we're looking pretty good. This card can get out of hand in long drawn out games, so we'll hate draft it. This card turns on a deck I don't want to play against, and no choice. So again, we're looking for mill and removal and enablers. Okay, so this is kind of a polarizing pick. Some people just be like, slam the Necrophet to 5/3 for 5, and it gets recursion. It gets to keep coming back. Um, that's good. And probably, unless you just get a bonkers start, this card is probably going to get some value. You're going to get this turn 7, in other words. But normally it would be pretty much slam Runeweb, but Fang is very good in spiders, and we already have pretty solid generation in the air with two. We have pretty much solid generation, so this is kind of, we don't need this card as much as we would if it was just triple set 3. Also, Cripple's a nice. We'll pick up Cripples too, but I don't want to pass up an opportunity for an Eremite. It's a little, maybe it's a questionable pick, but it's nice to have those kind of decisions. We have 3 quality cards. I can be a little picky. Here, it's, slam dunk Infiltrator, right? I mean, it's a fine card. Just because you have good generation doesn't mean more generation's bad. Like, it's the name of the game in spiders. The more eggs you can put in your opponent's deck, the faster, the better. One problem with Rune Rev Infiltrators, it's kind of a dead card late, and also there's a lot more evasion. So if you don't get it in your first like 7 or 8 cards, chances are it could be a dead card, but it's kind of splitting hairs. Still a great enabler for the cost. So now we're looking for mill. I want to clean up this pool a little bit. And I'd also like to not have to play these, though I'm not bummed if I do. There's just straight up removal in set 3, like paraphages and stuff. So Diamond would have been a good choice too. Look at that, Spirit Eagle, Crypt Shrieker. And this card may not make the deck, though. Arcane Focus, and any deck that can cast it finds its value. It cycles. It's card selection, basically. It's kind of like drawing a card because it's so cheap. Unless you keep a lot more 7s. So anyway, it's really a Winter Moon card or an Action Matters deck card. Here, though, I mean, what are we taking? This card's great in like Sapphire Wild. This card's great, in any deck that can cast it. Maybe I should take the Arcane Focus, but I know we're not going to play it. So this feels more like a hate draft with something, with a caveat that I might play it. So that was pretty much a disappointing pack. Here, so it looks like someone's in spiders somewhere on our right. Because these are some crazy ass signals. Which is interesting because our pack 1 was like brood count, egg blights, mackerel hands, and some other pretty good stuff, I think, if I remember correctly. So it shouldn't. Maybe this was a bad pack, but there's no spider cards in it, and there's some quality ass cards. So I'm confused. What's the best against us? We'll pick. It could be Death Mask, could be Spirit Eagle. We have answers to both, so I think what's the most, oh my god, we just lose would be Death Mask. So that's what we'll hate draft. But getting a little bummed out here. Somebody clearly just jumped in the spiders. I mean, we got good enough cards, but I wasn't expecting to get this brick this hard. So again, I wouldn't mind hating a Death Mask, or a Deep Gaze, or a Smash, or a Spirit Bound Spy, or a Sylvan Performer. There is one card we might play, and that's a Throwback. Throwback was really good in Spiders against Spirits, because you just needed some way to deal with, their combo out Spirit stuff, and Throwback giving that -1 buff, and, blinking something, or bouncing something before it got its buff. It's pretty devastating. But yeah, so all right, we got mill, but we're getting the pickings. We're getting the scraps of whoever moved in the spiders on our right. There could have just been a glut of spiders, but all of our signaling, it was for not. I would say we made a mistake being in spiders. We've got such a good pack 1 and pack 2 that I don't think it is. I think somebody moved in late. So it is what it is. So hopefully we see like a cripple or vampire kiss or something, some kind of card that kind of sneaks through. Um, that might be a good idea too to look at our actual curve. I think we're playing all this stuff. Glad I got all those Boakrogs. Never thought I'd say that. So again, our generation is pretty high, and we do care about spells a little bit. So Lunacy might actually be a pick here. There's nothing else we would really want to play. That's a spell. That's a spell. Feel good about 3 Boakrogs because I have 3 Festering Decays. So I'm not hating. Alright. Lunacy, but like I said, these are just scraps. Scrappity scraps. May not be totally into playing these guys here. We don't have a ton of spells. We can't play like 8 or 9 spells comfortably. I don't really know how good these guys are. Because we have enough generation, it's not really worth just having a 1-2. Or a 2-1. I guess it's 2 costs. It's not horrible. Just to have something on curve. So like I said, scraps, but this is a pretty awesome scrap. Hatchery Broodguard, a 4/5 for 6, single threshold. Make 6 spiders? Okay. Having 5 toughness totally stabilizes the board. One of my favorite cards is set 3 for spiders. Really undervalued for a really long time. Great card. I'll play up to 3 of those in an 18 shard deck. All day. So we have mixed threats. This card's great. A 3/3 for 5. Oftentimes, this will help bad spider decks become okay. In good spider decks, you're not really needing the cards. I know that sounds crazy. This card is totally busted broken when you're. I mean, just drawing tons of cards is incredible. The thing is, it feels a little win more when you have a really good spider deck because it's hard to cast and it doesn't do anything on its own. So that's really kind of a problem when you have really good cards already. So we'll say maybe on that. Taint, again, dealing with early aggro would be fine. I like this card more in Winter Moon or Tempo Flyers, though some people like it in Spiders. Defensive. Normally this is used defensively, which isn't really the correct use of that card, so I'll just take a Taint for the sideboard against Ruby aggro. Yeah, I'm gonna hate to have this because there's just no room for Arcane Focus. Like maybe. Yeah, we'll take it because we do have some Spell Matters cards that I might want to figure out how to play. There's no room for card draw. If we feel like our deck needs card draw, which all decks kind of do, but I'll just play the Archaeomancer. We'll hate the Ember Tears, even though Chant's not really a thing. I'm suspecting because I've seen Fury Chants go sweeping by. We don't need we may want this on a sideboard just to deal with like some crazy flyer deck, just to have something that can block or chump really. Yeah, so that was a disappointing pack. A little surprised it dried up as fast as it did. Kind of happy I picked that Eremite when I did because that's probably gonna do more work than the 5/3. And yeah, nothing really worth hating. We can deal with all this stuff. You know what we don't have is big removal. So we didn't see any Paraphagies. It's disappointing. So maybe we'll hate the card that we would want a Paraphagy. Yeah. This card can be good anti this card, which is actually a card now, since 5 shards a thing. But we're not in Ruby, obviously. So anyway, I think we have enough. We have enough to compete in this tournament. Yeah, so let's build it out. Definitely like not a bad spider deck by any stretch of the imagination. Great enabling, some cool kind of removal value that hopefully we can set up. And so we'll just go start at turn 1, single, 1 shard curve and work our way up. So we'll sort by rarity. and then we'll build it out. So again, if you're new, which is kind of like the reason why I make these videos, to help people out if they're brand new. Spiders basically want stabilization. It doesn't want to die. It wants generation, and it wants mill. Um, obviously ways to stabilize vary. A 4/5 for that's very defensive stats, and a pretty good attacker, but 5 toughness is very defensive. So that's stabilization, and then cards like that just kill cards are stabilization too. So your bleed outs, your festering decays, your paraphages would have gotten any of them, stuff like that. Mackerel Mitts. It's not technically stabilization. Stabilization typically is when you say you're stabilized, it means that you're bored. You've taken away profitable attacks from your opponent, so you've and thus kind of stem the bleeding, and you can remount a defensive and then offensive. But that being said, just it's good to think of spiders as needing three key things: stabilization, not dying, generation, and mill. So let's resort because this got a little weird. Yeah. Taint's a sideboard card. Arcane Focus is a maybe because we don't know really if we're going to want to play, go synergize around those spell matters venom. We're going to go for 3 Festering Decays. This may haunt me later, but typically this is going to be a live card at some point because you're generating spiders, you're chump blocking with spiders, then you can use that. You're chump blocking with whatever. This is making throwing stuff in the yard. Anyway, and also we kind of foresaw that we weren't going to get, just in case we didn't get a ton of mill in pack 3. This is at least playing 3 of these is 9 sources of mill. And it's also 9 cards in our yard, which is going to turn on Festering Decay, and it's a okay costed troop to boot, so I don't hate that. I want to play these two guys, but we're really gonna have to see what our spell count is. It needs to be around 8 or 9. Eremite, obviously, good card. Gain a health, do a damage whenever a spider comes into play. We have pretty good generation, so okay. 2 Eggblights. This is part of the pretty good generation. So make these guys fly, obviously. Unblockable would be good too, but that would be in Ruby, so awesome. Reap, clearly. Probably, I think the best removal in the block right now. Skitter, we'd play multiple Skitters. It's often going to be cast for free because we have so many Venons. We're going to be satisfy the when a Venom you control deals damage to a champion clause. So great. Good efficient flyers we'll play if we have to, but typically it's better just to synergize in spiders. We'll play this if we decide once our core of our deck's build that we want to add some more actions to synergize. Mackerel Mitts, excellent card. Stabilization, nerfs your opponent's stuff. We'll play one of these. I was going to play 2 if I didn't get another one for, but Wild Fang does a similar job, though we'll definitely bring in 2 against like Wild or something like that. Evasive generation, awesome. We're easily going to be able to satisfy the Venom clause. And okay, mill and stabilization in one card, very valuable in spiders. Hurrah! Brood count talked about it, an exceptional stabilizer and an exceptional generator. Very cool card. Can't wait to try it out. It's the first one I've gotten. This is more of a. I guess we talked about wondering what. I guess this is a great reason to not even think about our Chaomancer because this is gonna make us a ton of cards, and it's a threat, and it's a stabilizer, and yeah. So triple threshold. We're gonna be playing 9 sources, so it's not really that much of a pipe dream. Stabilizer, multiple senses. It flies, has stabilizing stats, and that could potentially put flying, which is going to help us further stabilize because we're kind of weak against flyers. So yeah, we'll get you in there, and then we'll get you in there. Generation and stabilization gives us 2 slots. That makes me feel a little better about throwing in some of these corner case cards. What would that be? So we have 2. I feel like I want to go Hatchery Lunacy. Throwback's a little more flexible. It could solve some early problems that perhaps Festering Decay won't be able to. Festering Decay could honestly come back and bite me. 3 seems like a lot One feels safe. Two feels. I think this may be like time and experience with set four. I know I've put Festering Decay to good use already, but that's more just running good. This definitely has a clear setup cost. So anyway, I don't think I need to play two Hatchery Malvokers. Let's see what our spell count is, or action. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So yeah, it doesn't feel um, like enough, like at all. So maybe we go one just to be a little greedy, and then play a throwback or a lunacy, or we just play throwback and lunacy, um, which isn't that bad. That would give us 8 spells, which is borderline to play one Malvoker. The problem with this card just doesn't do anything if you don't have a spell. It's just a 2/1 for 2, which isn't horrible, but it's not really what Spiders is looking to do. I guess we can consider our curve. So turns 3 on, we have some pretty good stabilizing plays, and then it kind of stays that way in the higher end of our curve. So just playing a 2-drop because it's a 2-drop as a worst case scenario may not be necessary. Again, this will kind of act as a 2-drop because it trades for a 3/3. Something with 3 toughness. It's kind of like a 2 and a 3-drop. But again, it's a setup cost. But again, we're playing 3 splinters. I don't know. It's this combo setup thing. I don't like it, but 3 and 3 seems like it's going to synergize enough. And there's going to be cases when we get multiple troops in the yard, and there's going to be cases when we have a bunch of spiders that we can sack off early, or chump block, whatever. I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it. So this is 9 sources of mill, and then this guy, Psionic Arcalike, that feels like enough mill. I do want to play a throwback though. This card's a little better in Spells Matters. It is an action. We're not action matters yet. I'm really trying to think whether or not I want to play a Malvoker. Because right now we only have 6 spells, and 7, I don't know. We could also go Arcane Focus, throwback, if we feel like we have enough mill. Card selection. Is there anything we would take out for a Malvoker? Like I said, all these cards serve pretty specific roles. And this combo is a little fluffy, though we're pretty low in removal. Otherwise, alright. Well, I want to throw back. I'm going to say we're okay on mill. It's not ideal, but I think the upside. Well, let's look at generators. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generators. That's a lot of generation. So Malvoker may just be unnecessary. Even if we do get 3, how much of an impact is that on the game when you already have 7 sources of generation? Most of them are, somewhat permanent. Um, yeah, so I think Lunacy is probably going to be a powerhouse play more often than not. When you really just need to turn the tides and backswing with a billion spiders, or, you know, trade up. Yeah, I like that. No need to go the secondary spider chant, which would be Patriarch Ozin, I think. Yeah, when it deals damage, bury. If this is actually, I think this guy's going to be more valuable now with more set 4, because there's not a ton of great mill, and sometimes just having it on a champion is enough. There's plenty of evasive troops, just not enough mill sources. So I think we're gonna the health, the 18 health is really bad though, especially in spiders. So I don't know. We'll see. Um, Currently, all my spider decks I've drafted so far since set 4 have just been the classic Zozim. Just make spiders, man. 22 health. Sign me up. You know. Um, but anyway, this is the deck. If you guys have any like critiques, hopefully I justified my explanations. Hopefully they were clear. And hopefully, if you're new, you learn something. Um, yeah, I think we're gonna stick with this. It seems pretty solid. And I'll put a post in the description about how it did. I haven't been recording the games mainly because nobody watches them. Um, maybe like watch game one and then like two people watch game two or match two, and then like a handful of people watch. It doesn't really matter if you ask for it, like leave me a message asking for the games. I'll put it. I'm not sure that it's in demand, so I just save myself some trouble by not posting them. But it's all about you guys. So if you want to see them, I'll post them. But leave a comment in the description. Leave a comment asking for them, basically. So yeah. Anyway, hope you learned something. Thanks a lot for watching.